Today we'll be reading War Portrait, Boonta the Hutt, from The Essential Guide to Warfare by Jason Fry and Paul R. Urquhart. If not for the leadership of two great Hutts, Xim the Despot might have achieved his goal of making Slaheyron the ninth throne of his empire, avoided the fatal distractions of Vontor, and escaped his fate, and the history of the galaxy might be very different. The first Hutt who stood in his way was Cossack Inizhik Ardurv. It was Cossack who persuaded the fractious Hutt clans that the Taiwanese were an existential threat, cajoled them into uniting against Xim, with Cossack himself as clan general, exploited the despot's pride and vanity to ensnare him in ritual combats, and lured the Vadrans, Niktos, and Clatuinians into Hutt service so their forces might tip the balance against Xim at the Third Battle of Vontor. While Cossack was a political genius and a cunning warrior, it took another Hutt to defeat Xim, Boonta Hestelik Shadru, hailed as the architect of the Hutt's defenses and the assaults that destroyed the despot's forces. While the history of this period is hazy, most historians believe Boonta began his rise to power as a clan leader on Ko Vari, a rich trade world on what was then the Hutt frontier. Knowing he couldn't defend his world against the Taiwanese, Boonta determined that the invaders would pay dearly for it, sacrificing countless valuable slaves in suicidal attacks on the despot's warships and ground forces. Xim responded by sacking the planet brutally, but Boonta had bought invaluable time for his fellow Hutts. Impressed, Cossack directed him to harass the Taiwanese worlds with slave-crewed privateers. Boonta fought well at the first and second battles of Vontor. When Xim withdrew from the Moralan system in the hope of fomenting slave revolts against the Hutts, Boonta crushed the rebellious Moralan parliament, sterilizing the planet as an object lesson for the Hutt's slave species. He then retook Ko Vari before leading the Hutt warships at the Third Battle of Vontor. The Hutts say that on the night before the invasion of Moralan, Boonta gathered his kin, loyal retainers, and favored slaves and spoke of the Hutts and their rightful place in the galaxy. He swore he would rather die than live in a galaxy in which Hutts bowed down to bipeds, and in which the beneficence of their rule was replaced by the chaos of slave species scratching and crawling for brief dominance. Boonta's Eve is still celebrated as a Hutt holiday, a night in which slaves renew their vows of obeisance and are rewarded with a feast and trinkets. Another tradition honors Boonta: popular pod races on a number of Hutt-controlled worlds. The Hutts say such competitions date back to celebrations held by Boonta himself on reclaimed Ko Vari. Each year on Boonta's Eve, Taiwanese prisoners would be forced to run while the Hutts wagered on the results, with the stragglers in each heat put to death until the sole survivor was proclaimed winner. The planet Ko Vari, meanwhile, is now called Boonta, in tribute to the Hutt who recaptured it from Xim. I hope you've enjoyed the story of War Portrait, Boonta the Hutt.